percolate this right here.
Alright, well, my documentary was Restrepo. It was about the soldiers in Afghanistan, the most deadliest outpost in Afghanistan. But you couldn't really do much of a research project on it because, I mean, there's only one Restrepo and then there's not that much fighting going on. So I changed it to a more juicy topic: the social and economic consequences of American involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan. So can anybody tell me why we went to Iraq? Does anybody know? News?
Because Iraq was harboring the terrorists that did the act of 9/11, and, well, because they would not give up...
before 9/11?
Yeah, well, because they did not give up the terrorists that actually attacked us, or any of the people who were involved with it. We just went in and tried to tell me.
Okay. Anybody else?
Dirty sand people over there?
That's probably more correct.
Dirty sand.
No, Aaron was pretty correct about it, but then once we got there, it kind of turned into something different than what we thought we were fighting. We actually, the government, the Ba'ath government that was headed by Saddam was actually very corrupt, and so we had to displace them. But anyways, does anybody know if we're still there? Who thinks we're still there?
Yeah. We have partial forces there.
Well, officially we've been declared one by George Bush whenever he had the mission accomplished. We've already been declared. And then Obama says, actually, I think 2 more times in the Bush presidency they declared major military actions over with. But yet, whenever I show you the timeline, you'll see how actually fighting continued, and it still does. But technically right now we're not at war with them, but yeah, we still have 500,000 troops in there, which is a lot more than any other foreign base that I've heard of. You can click it. Oh yeah, this is the consequences, the economic consequences, because it was social and economic. The economic side is we're $15 trillion in debt. We've spent $1 trillion towards the war effort alone, and that's not including how much the Defense Department percentage that they spent has rose 70% since 2001, 9/11. And some of it is necessary because, as you can see, it's very easy to sneak on board, and we had to hire more security to keep protection of our nation. But as far as the Middle East is concerned, I think we are spending way too much money. And a lot of the resources show that if we would have cut spending in the Middle East by at least half, we could save a lot of money. It's something $20 billion. I think I'll show it later. And now the consequences has outweighed the kind of like Vietnam. The consequences has outweighed the reason we're there, because we're there to stop terrorism, but we're not doing that at all. We're actually rebuilding a nation, which is very expensive, and we don't have that money right now. You can click it. So we went there, all the Americans. If you would have asked somebody right after 9/11 why we went there, it's to get Bin Laden, which we eventually did, but fighting was not acted towards Al-Qaeda. All the fighting was towards Saddam's regime, and we were trying to displace him so we could put in our own government. And we did that, but we found out our own government is not working at all. And that's, until we stabilize that country, we're not going to be able to get out, because we're going to leave it worse than where we got in there. And so, because it's such a violent country, we got to stabilize it. And that's the major problem right now. We can't just leave. I already said the Ba'ath Party. Alright, you can click next. And this is the timetable for you to get a better understanding of how Iraq has worked.
Give me just a second, Harrison. I want to document this for Miss Wilson.
Alright.
Yeah.
She has the
Here's another question.
No, she doesn't.
Why didn't we just just leave like the country unstable as it is entirely.
Because that's the reason we're there.
No, but like we went in there for the terrorists. We could have just done that and left it unstable. Despite it being
The
a
problem
wall.
with the terrorists is it's really complicated because the terrorists, you don't know who they are. They could be Lucy, for all we know.
Probably.
Yeah, she is
Probably.
Canadian.
I don't know. But
That's Ontario.
the Taliban and Al Qaeda are one in each other. Like the leaders of Al Qaeda are also have close ties to the Taliban, and they are completely different things. They still cause terror, but in Iraq, the amount of citizens that move away is, I don't know the numbers, but it's really incredible at the rate everyone's leaving, because once we got in there, all hell broke loose and now it's crazy. And so now we're trying to stabilize it because the Muslim community hates us right now. And the whole Muslim community owns like 90% of the world's oil, which sucks for us. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Like I said, we're fighting the Taliban, who is more like a local mob, and in that they provide protection for the citizens that are still there, and they'll pay them and they'll feed them, but most of the time they say, all right, but you have to give your kid a gun and he has to go shoot at the Americans. And then whenever the Americans come investigate the house, they're like, oh no, we don't do anything. And we find their guns, and then we have to arrest them, and then it's really complicated.
Of course, the media looks at that badly.
Oh yeah, and then another one of these documentaries,
I know.
another one of the documentaries says, or shows how currently everybody knows that America could vaporize Iraq if they wanted to, every building if we wanted to, but we can't do that because one, the reaction to the Muslim world would not be good, and two, if we did that, no, we can't do that because we're trying to stabilize them. And so in order to combat the Taliban, we are trying to pay the people they are paying more, which is really counterintuitive when we're $50 trillion in debt. And the main strategy for Iraq currently is reform, review, and rebuild. There's no fighting in there. It's reform, build schools, reform the government, rebuild. Review, I don't even know how to have that. I guess a reviewing what they've done wrong. And then you can do next slide. Why no waterboarding? Well, one main thing that kept reoccurring in the research was, I'm all for waterboarding if it's going to save thousands of lives, but what happens is, whenever we do that to their Islamic leaders, and then the groups that we're trying to fight find out how we're treating them, it pisses them off, so that's whenever the violence really starts to happen. And also that all the other countries around Iraq, their perception, their attitude towards the Americans who are torturing the Iraqis, we're the invading country right now, and they really don't like that. So whenever we mistreat them, I don't know if you've ever heard the term winning hearts and minds. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to win Iraq and Afghanistan as the people's minds so we can rebuild them and then they can be an asset to us. But it's really not helping us. I don't know. You probably, if you really wanted to research enough, you could probably find for every media outbreak, like the most recent one, whenever the guy shot up the whole village in Iraq. You guys know what that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, stuff like that, if you were to go back and then plot all the times gas prices have rose, because there's no shortage of gas, but if you plot how much gas has rose, and then you plot when those happen, I wonder if you could find a correlation. Next slide.
I have a question.
Yes.
Waterboarding. So like, can you like explain waterboarding in detail? Like, can we have like a?
So whenever they'll lay you down, they'll put a towel on your face, they'll pour water on you.
Can we like do that in class?
I mean, I don't know.
I'm a tie, let's do it.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
Okay. Slide down. It simulates drowning, but you're in no fear of drowning at all. So
Oh,
I don't even know why they.
So it's not dangerous at all.
But you feel like you're going to die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it like simulates to your mind. Your mind's like, oh crap, I'm drowning right now. Alright, and then another one I found was the social consequences. Yes?
Does waterboarding scare terrorists because they don't come in contact with very much water?
Yes. Probably it.
Okay.
That's my guess. Well, another thing I kept coming up with, and I know Miss Wilson has talked about it a lot, was the returning veterans and how Iraq, unlike all the other previous wars, there are people that have served 5 deployments, 5 tours in Iraq, which is unheard of. So they're kind of messed up in the head. And the numbers are up here, 2.3 million veterans, that's how many there are. Unemployment is double, and the suicide rate is triple than the national average. And 1 out of every 3 Iraqs, so I did not do the math, but
That's
1 out of
30.
2.3.
33.33%.
Yeah. So 33.33% of 2.3 million, they have some kind of psychological condition. The majority have PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, which normally comes from constantly being under the tension that comes with knowing you might get blown up instantly. So you do next.
Knowing you might hit like an unlimited tree.
The bottom line, this is very controversial, but I wanted to throw out my own opinion. Like I said, if we wanted to, we could decimate them militarily, with our military, but it doesn't even require a military really, because we're trying to rebuild it, so it's more like we need builders and workers, and we can't supply them alone, and the UN is definitely not backing this. So what happens is we need to get the countries around Iraq, the countries that don't like us, we need to get them to like us, and to see what our mindset is and what we're trying to do with Iraq, how we're trying to help them. And if we can do that, I said we have to take a new political directions with states such as Iran and Syria. Now maybe not Iran, because they're crazy.
Exactly.
But there are the countries around there, like Saudi Arabia, we need to get them on our side to help us put in the, at least a reflection of our government in Iraq. And then if we do that, it'll be like Israel, where they'll be on our side. And if we can put democracy in there, then that'll at least stabilize. But the controversy is it doesn't really work in Islamic nations. But we need to at least get Iraq built so where it's not crazy and blowing stuff up and harboring terrorists. That's the bottom line. And that's it.